Hello. In this video, I'm going to look at an article by Sull. It's called Why Good Companies Go Bad, and it appeared in the Harvard Business Review in 1999. This is a good article to start exploring the impact that cognitive frameworks and bias have on strategy making. It should of course be noted that it is not just in failing companies that the limits on rationality exist. Bounded rationality is part of being human. Cognitive frameworks are part of our survival kit. They help us to interpret information and act quickly. Linkages from the article can be made to path dependency, architectural innovation, and strategic drift, as cognitive frames do not just exist at an individual level, but also at group, firm, and institutional levels of society. Sull starts the article by stating that the most successful companies are often the slowest to adapt when facing big changes in their environment. Some ultimately manage to recover, usually after many painful rounds of restructuring, but many don't. It is often assumed that the problem is paralysis. The firm freezes, as if caught in the headlights. But this explanation does not fit the facts. Usually, managers of such firms recognise threat early, analyse its implications, and unleash a flurry of responses. The problem is not an inability to take action, but an inability to take appropriate action. Now, there are many reasons for this, ranging from managerial stubbornness to sheer incompetence. But most common, says the author, is what he calls active inertia. In most people's minds, inertia is associated with lack of action. Difficult to get something moving. But in physics, the concept is broader. It is the reluctance to change trajectory when already set on a path. For an organisation, active inertia is the tendency to follow established patterns of behaviour even when there are dramatic changes. Managers stuck in modes of thinking and working that have brought success in the past and believing that paralysis is the big enemy simply accelerate all their tried and true activities, often only to make things worse. Sull gives the examples of Firestone, a US tyre manufacturer, and Laura Ashley, the clothing company that promoted traditional British values, to explore how active inertia can lead to the failure of even leading firms. Firestone was well linked to US car manufacturers and had a fiercely loyal workforce and an ability to bring new capacity online to quickly exploit identified opportunities. But despite recognising the threat early via its European subsidiaries, it was unable to respond effectively to Michelin's introduction of radial tyres in the US market. Laura Ashley grew rapidly, with its offering appealing to a wide selection of buyers. With strong values and pride in its in-house production and close relationships with its store franchises and customers, it was seen as a success story. But as apparel manufacturing and customer tastes change, it continued to pursue its proven model. It was not paralysed, for it initiated a wide range of activity, but it could not see the need to refresh its strategy or its values. Sull suggests that the origins of active inertia lie in the very success of companies like Firestone and Laura Ashley. Most businesses owe their success to a competitive formula, a distinctive combination of strategies, processes, relationships and values that set them apart from their rivals. As success emerges, customers multiply, talented staff come and join the company, investors bid up the stock price, and competitors seek to imitate the firm. Sometimes with continued success, the approach taken can even become the dominant paradigm for an industry. The success reinforces managers' confidence that they have found the one best way, and they focus all their energy onto refining and extending this winning system. As a result, frequently the system hardens, becomes set, with a rigid devotion developing to the status quo. I would add that often this is unconsciously accepted as what works, and so ingrained into the fabric of the organisation. Hence, when change comes in the company's markets, the firm automatically responds with the formula that brought it success, even if it's unsuited for the new conditions. In this process, there are 4 things that happen that Sull highlights. The first is that strategic frames become blinders. By strategic frames, he means the mental models, the mindsets that shape how managers see the world. Now, such cognitive frameworks concentrate managers' attentions within the bombardment of raw data that crosses their desks and devices every day. It is by fitting this complex data flow into an established model that you make sense of it and act quickly. As Laura Ashley's managers did, they quickly judged new product extensions based on the fit with their traditional English style to fashion that had brought them success. But mental models built up over time can also blind, convincing managers that certain things are the only ones that matter. If you like, they constrict peripheral vision, preventing people noticing new options or new opportunities. For example, Firestone knew all about Michelin and radial tyres, but still could not see them as a major threat in their US market. Where frames are deeply ingrained, managers often unconsciously force signals to fit or simply don't notice data that challenges the frame. Laura Ashley repeatedly dismissed sales falls as a temporary fluctuation. However, don't rush to judge these managers. We all use cognitive frames to make sense of the world we encounter, some of which are deeply ingrained since birth. Some would argue that they are even the basis of our success as a species. According to Sull, the second hallmark of active inertia relates to the processes in an organisation. When a company does something new, employees will try lots of different ways to carry out that activity. But once one is found that works well, there is a strong incentive to lock that in and stop searching. It satisfies. Fixing on a single process then frees time and resources to follow other tasks. With experience of doing that process, productivity rises and unit costs fall. After all, that's the basis of economies of scale and standardization. And predictability is also gained, allowing the organisation to coordinate complex activities. But just as with strategic frames, over time people follow the processes because they are well known and comfortable, not because they are necessarily efficient. Once established as a routine, alternative processes never get considered and rarely tried. After all, why learn something new when you are good at what you are doing and it works? Sull uses the example of McDonald's in the 1990s. Its historic strength was its single-minded focus on refining standardized mass production processes across all its outlets. But as consumer tastes changed, wanting variety and healthier options, its centralized approach stifled and delayed an effective response, despite many attempts at new menu additions. The third area that contributes to active inertia that Sull explores are the strong relationships the firm has with its stakeholders that form the basis of its success. Its employees, its customers, its suppliers, its lenders and its investors. Both Firestone and Laura Ashley both build close contacts with their staff and customers that were woven into the way of operating in both companies. However, when conditions shift, these relationships can become shackles, limiting flexibility. The need to maintain existing relationship hinders development of new products, new distribution channels and new markets. I personally saw this in the slow reaction of traditional insurers to the entry of Direct Line in the UK. The traditional insurers fearing that they'd lose broker business. There is also a fear of alienating key staff who might choose to leave if the company's way of doing things changes. The final hallmark of active inertia that Sull puts forward is that companies' values turn into dogma. The company's values are the set of deeply held beliefs that unify the firm's far-flung operations and hopefully inspire the people in a business. At Firestone, it was exemplified by the loyalty to the company and to the local community. At Laura Ashley, store franchises rallied around the firm's traditional values, in-house production, English-inspired designs. However, as companies mature, the values often harden into rigid rules and regulations, followed only because they are enshrined in precedent. As Sull says, values no longer inspire, and their unifying power degenerates into a reactionary tendency to circle the wagons around in the face of threats. Sull gives the example of Shell, renowned for fiercely independent country managers and a decentralised structure that allowed it to quickly seize growth opportunities. But in an era of low oil prices in the 1990s, the belief in decentralisation prevented the company from quickly rationalising its operations and cutting costs. Sull finishes the article by considering what firms can do to counter active inertia. Failure is not an inevitable consequence. At the same time that Firestone was struggling to cope with the switch to radials, Goodyear, with its own historic frames, processes, relationships and values, successfully made that transition. Sull advises that when faced with change, firms need to break out of the assumption that the worst enemy is paralysis. Instead of rushing to ask what should we do and act quickly, they should ask what hinders us. This focuses the attention on strategic frames, processes, relationships and values that can channel action in the wrong direction. Most struggling companies have a good sense of what they need to do, often contained in stacks of internal and external reports that make similar recommendations. The problem is their lack of understanding of how their old formula for success hinders their response to change. Now, even after the obstacles have been understood, a firm should resist the impulse to rush to revolutionise the business. Trying to change everything often destroys crucial competencies and the fabric of the social relationships that have taken years to build, often disorientated customers and employees in the process, sometimes fatally. Instead, a degree of continuity is needed, and change that is seen to respect the firm's heritage. So continuity and change. For example, in the transforming of IBM from a hardware manufacturer to a solutions provider, Chief Executive Lou Gerstner emphasised how new competencies complemented the old. So it was renewal, not revolution. In overcoming active inertia, firms should build on the foundations of the past, even as they embed new strategic frames, processes, relationships and values. So, what do we make of Sull's article? Well, as I said at the start, it is a useful entry into thinking about cognitive frameworks and why firms struggle to shift strategy even when it's obvious that change is needed. This does not just apply to firms that fail. In any organisation or industry, the same barriers will exist. And with the introduction of any new strategy, you need to think about where and how such barriers need to be addressed. Do not see this phenomena as bad. The presence of strategic frames, standard processes, close customer relationships and clear beliefs are all essential to a well-functioning firm. What we need to be aware of is that those same attributes can become a trap. Thank you for listening.